welcome to the brand new year. It's barely 3 days into it. I cannot be more grateful for life for this very moment. And I want to welcome you on that note to the new year, but also to the Uganda Diaspora Show in the year 2026, the election year we have here back in Uganda. I'm Lynn Komjisha, for those of you who are getting to know and be part of the show for the first time. We thank you for joining us, and from wherever you are, Uganda Diaspora Show sits every other time to discuss issues that affect Uganda, but also affects the Ugandan diaspora, and maybe how best we can integrate the two and find solutions and find a better way to live as a society back home. Being an election year, we started off on a very bad note back home here. For those of us who know the CCG, which is the I beg your pardon, you know that Dr. Sarah Birete is the ED at Center for Constitutional Governance, and she's also part and parcel of Civic Space TV, under which the Uganda Diaspora Show is hosted. So today's topic, we are looking at human rights, power and politics ahead of election day, and what the arrest of the Uganda human rights advocate, Dr. Sarah Birete, reveals about Uganda's democracy, the civic space, and the road to January 2026 and January 15th. So we are going to take a look at that. But with me today, I want to recognize the fact that we have started the new year with my usual panelists, but also I have Nancy Caroline. Nancy is from CCG, and she's also a host here at Civic Space TV, and we are glad to have her. I'll come to her first. She will start on the show. She'll start the show because I want her to give us the background, to tell us the story from 30th to this day, what has transpired, what happened, and how all that plays into today's conversation. But allow me welcome Albert Bakasara. It's been a minute. Francis Kamhanda, thank you very much. Dr. Chen, it is lovely having you, gentlemen and lady. So Nancy, allow me to start with you and give us a picture, paint a picture for us, the situation at hand.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for having me on the Diaspora Show. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you're watching from. I'm so happy to be on the call with Dr. Chen and Mr. Francis Kamhanda again. We met last year in the Diaspora Show as well. And to all of our other viewers, I would first of all like to say that I have been on the ground since the event started, since the events went down, and I was able to see Dr. Sarah Birete just yesterday, and I would like to let all our viewers know that she is well and she is in very good spirit, but she also knows that this will come to pass. So to begin with, sorry for the background noise, but to begin with, Dr. Sarah Birete, we got to know that something was going down when Dr. Sarah Birete went on her X account, former Twitter, and tweeted that her house had been surrounded by security forces. So when that happened, immediately the news outlines went hot, the bloggers went hot. And for me, I was having like a normal holiday day. I was even going to take an afternoon nap when suddenly the news started to come up. And then, of course, we started to liaise and see what is going on. The thing is, not more than 5 minutes after that tweet, we could not access her anymore. We could not access her on the phones. Now, the story that we got from her directly is that the security forces came into her home after surrounding it from the back gate and the front as well. and all the sides, the neighboring sides where there was a lower fence and all that. They came to her house and then they demanded that she go with them. There was no arrest warrant. It's important for me to say this because I'm a lawyer. There was no arrest warrant, but also they did not tell her what she was being charged with. So they came, they took her. But let's note that even when they came to her house, they confiscated the telephone devices of her children who are minors at that. So it wasn't just a traumatic event for her as an individual, but her children had to see her being taken away in that state. So after then, they drove her to Central Police Station, and for reasons that we do not know of, they transferred her to Natete Police Station, which is on Masaka Road. So now, following those events, we know that we, of course, went swiftly to try and find her legal counsel because we wanted to know what was going on, what charges were against her. The people at the station, the police persons, could not tell us what charges were against Dr. Sarah, but they only went to their X account and tweeted that indeed they had her in custody, because not only was the online platforms going off, people were tweeting about it. People were asking, what's going on? What's wrong? My phone personally was ringing off the hook, and I did not know what to do, what to say. We knew as much as everyone else at that point. We did not know why she was being detained. But the impression that we got at the station was that even the policemen and women at the station did not know what was going on. Later on that day, a police officer, a female police officer, the police force released a statement through a female police officer, saying that they had her in custody and they were still trying to determine the charges against Dr. Sarah Birete. So Dr. Sarah Birete was arrested without any charges, and she was kept in custody. And from that moment onwards, we were trying to access her through legal counsel, but in a good way. She was allowed to access she was allowed to access food, which is a basic human right, really. But she was allowed to access food. She was allowed to access her medicines. And I'm saying this because we know that in the different arrests of different people, this would not be permitted, but for her, this was allowed. So the next day, we all camped at Natete Police Station for the whole day, with lawyers and friends and families, but also different human rights activists and different organizations of human rights sent in their representatives to determine what was going on. We know for sure that when the interrogation started almost after midday. All that time she had been in custody, she did not know what was going on. The interrogation started around midday. She was allowed counsel to guide her through some of the processes, but after that they were sent out. So from the manner of interrogation, at first, we thought that the counsels and the entire team thought that the reason why she was arrested was because of her comments on the different human rights issues, but also on the inconsistencies and indiscrepancies in the electoral processes, especially during campaigns and the role of the Electoral Commission and the military. But at that point, it was still mere speculation because we still did not know what she was being charged with. So we wanted to get her police bond that same day, but they said that was not possible. When we had our representatives and friends from the Uganda Law Society come in to put in a bit of pressure, we realized that the police said that they were not in charge of this file, and the persons in charge of this file were at Central Police Station. Now, we divided our efforts. Some of us stayed at Natete to come and make sure that she's all right, and in case she needed anything, we'd be there for her, while others went to Central Police Station with our sureties who were ready, really, in case of anything, in case should be taken to court. Alas, we were unable to do anything for Dr. Sarah, and she spent a second night in prison because the impression that the police gave us again is that they were receiving orders from elsewhere. We do not know who they were receiving orders from or what orders those were, but what we know for sure is that Dr. Sarah Birete could not be let go at that moment. So not only did she spend that night in prison, but she had to pass the new year in prison, because on 1st January is ideally a public holiday and the courts are not open on that day. So now on 2nd January is when she is produced at court. For us at the Center for Constitutional Governance, of course, we started with a press conference in solidarity with her, with our board of directors present, and we ran straight to court. That is when I was able to see her, to visit her, and she told us to keep strong. I believe that she understood the dynamics of what was going on more than we ever did, because we were hopeful at that point. We were like, since there are no real charges, indeed, Dr. Sarah will be released. Now, we go to court, and this is the most bizarre thing, because we went to court and we did not even know what charges were against her. So Dr. Sarah had the charges against her for the very first time in open court before a grade 1 magistrate, Nancha Winnie. And in court, at first, our legal team said, you know what? We do not know why we are here. There are no charges. And then the prosecutor passed them a paper, the charge sheet, like here. It was like, oh, we've been availed with the charge sheet. And then she read the charges, and I remember she laughed when she read the charges. And when the charges were formally read in court is when we realized that she was being charged with procuring voter information that is primarily a document that is at the discretion of the Electoral Commission to hold and to supply. However, to my basic understanding, voter information, especially voter registers and where polling stations are assigned, is information that is public, that is shared on the Electoral Commission website and is public. So one of the questions that came to my mind, of course, was whether her supplying this type of document warranted the manner of arrest, because the way she was arrested, you'd think she was being accused of treason or some manner of capital offense, to say the least. This particular charge could attract less than 10 years of imprisonment, and we hope it does not get to that at this point. But after reading the charge, the prosecution says they do not have enough evidence to actually go through the trial process or the charge, and they need to be given more time to investigate. So another thing that we noted was that not only was this charge probably crafted overnight, there was no real evidence that she actually did this thing. So the prosecution and the police did not investigate her first, which should have been the norm in law. They did not investigate her first before serving her with these charges, restricting her of her personal liberty and taking her into custody like a capital criminal. They put her there. And then our lawyer said, well, you have nothing. There is either proof that she did something, in this case, probably the document that she shared that shows the personal information of Ugandans who are voters, or some other type of proof that you have. There is either that or there is none. And in this particular case, she cannot run away because she has duties in this country, but also we have substantial sureties. We were so blessed to have many people, about 6 people who are sureties, among which was Mr. Joseph Ocheno of the UPC, Right Honorable Winnie Kiza of the ANT, but also Ambassador Edith Sempala, among others. So we presented our sureties, and indeed, at this moment, we thought that it was going the right way, because there was clearly no case against Dr. Sarah. And of course, we took a recess for 30 minutes so that the sureties would be uploaded on the online platform for the judiciary. And indeed, we thought this was it. This had to be it. We just had to hear the objections from the prosecution on these sureties, and then they grant her bail, because in a normal process, in normal due process, the law is supposed to be predictable, such that where there is no evidence, the person should not be the person's liberty should not be removed from them, should not be restricted as such. The prosecution did not offer any they did not offer any reason why they should not grant Dr. Sarah bail. They had no objections to Dr. Sarah's bail application. They only said that they needed time to investigate, more time to investigate. And now, in the shortest amount of time, no more than 2 minutes, the magistrate there said that, well, the prosecution needs to respond to a bail application, banged the gravel and said that, you know what, we shall resume this session on 21st January. Dr. Sarah is remanded for the rest of that time. So that is exactly what happened. So it happened so fast, like everything seemed to have a sequence, like some sort of flow, until that very moment. And I personally felt like the rug was pulled off my feet, because I couldn't cite a specific law. I could not. That's why I feel like this was never about law. It was never about what Dr. Sarah had or had not done. It was just a trumped up charge. So right now, we know for sure that she is at Luzira prison, women's prison, and that is where she will spend the rest of those days until 21st January, when we will try again. That is the situation at hand.
All right. Chilling as it is, I just it's chilling, because we know Sarah has been very vocal about governance issues. She's been vocal about human rights issues, civic freedoms, and all these things. So you narrating what happened really is quite chilling. And you see, as we enter a critical period, we are already in this critical period, high political tension and public scrutiny. These events, and I mean, it is not isolated. She's not the only one. There are other people that have been arrested. And the debates, of course, are reunited about human rights, civic freedoms. We are talking the role of the state during elections. So as we talk about all this, it's not about personalities, but about systems, institutions, and democratic standards. So I want this conversation to not just matter to Ugandans at home, but to the diaspora and international observers watching Uganda's democratic trajectory. The big question here then is, it's not who will win, but what kind of democracy are we practicing? And that is if we are practicing at all. So I want to come to my panelists, and I want to begin with you, Dr. Ochen. We have seen what has happened, and it's not the first time. We saw similar events happening in the previous election cycle. Why has this particular arrest resonated strongly with the public? Do you think it sends a particular message? Is it any different from other arrests that have been made? And how then do we get into the few days remaining to January 15th with tensions this high?
Thank you very much. And firstly, Happy New Year to all viewers out there, though not Happy New Year because of what's happening on the ground. And also, thank you very much, Nancy, for the background kind of information. Yeah, it gives us kind of general, insightful knowledge of what transpired, and thank you for that. Yeah, I must say that from the start, of this arrest of Dr. Sarah, it's clear that the police themselves actually breach the law from the onset. Because if we even were to go on our own Uganda Constitution of 1995, if you look at Article 27 of the Uganda Constitution, it stipulates that no person shall be subjected to unlawful search, okay, or from home or as an individual or property of a person, unlawful entry by others to someone's place is unlawful. So from the onset, those who should actually keep the law and order breach, the law from the onset. That is one. And actually breach multiple uh, uh, provisions of the Constitution from the start. If you go also Article 77 of Uganda Constitution, you find that the police have contradicted themselves by the way they've acted. You don't just walk into someone's home and grab as if you're grabbing a chicken. No, that is not ethical, not authentic, and not kind of constitutional. So that has claimed that they had a hidden, to me, from my worldview, I think they had a hidden motive. And I think because it's known that Dr. Sarah has been one of the strongest, pillar, or defender for human rights and for governance and, for, make sure that human rights are respected and, and valued. So I think she has been a target. Maybe from my observation, I think they wanted to keep her off from the electoral time period, so that maybe she should emerge out from the jail or confinement after the elections, so that she should not be able to maybe monitor and write her own kind of observations and feedback. But what's happened to Sarah is not an isolation, because I think this is a pattern that transpires or happens every, electoral calendar time or period. Because I also recall around 2021, I think Nicholas Opio also was, I think, a victim of the same kind of, arrest of Opio Nicholas. And he was also very critical, and there are also fabricated, allegations and charges on him, and I think later they were dropped. From where I sit, the charges that are being placed on Sarah, for me, it holds no water, holds no weight, because what I know is that if I look also like to Article 41 of the Constitution of Uganda, it would also stipulate that every citizen has a right of access to information in the possession of the state or any other organ or agency of the state, except where the release of the information is likely to compromise security and independence of the state. And I think if you're sharing about electoral data, like information, there's no way that was going to compromise, the security of the country. Hence, again, I think from my own observation, I'm not a lawyer, but as a person who just might just kind of know what's happening around the world, I think she did not breach any part of the Constitution, because Article 41 of our own Constitution In fact, even supports our actions. She was just trying to maybe get information and enlighten the public, to provide civic education about details others may not know, and it's not a crime. I don't see in any way that would compromise like security of the state. I don't see in any way unless I'm ignorant. I have to be maybe enlightened, but I don't see in my worldview. Yeah, so it's very unfortunate. And I must say that what has happened to our colleague and Sarah is not in isolation, as I said before. There are so many right now Ugandans that have been detained for some time, especially the NUP, supporters have been detained, some without hearing for a long time, and also other, activists have been detained, whereby they have not been produced, and some of them, their whereabouts are even not known. So, these are very, telling. From where I sit, that would not happen where I live because you don't just, simply curtail, the fundamental human rights of your citizens, by trying to suffocate the rights. That would be off the radar. And now, as we proceed, what do we expect in the next few days, from this? I can see that they know that a person like Sarah is one of the bravest or tough or brave individuals who would actually speak out of any illegalities in the process. So I think those who are trying to do this or detain Sarah are trying to send a signal to the rest of the citizens out there to know that if they try to question or challenge certain illegalities, they'll also be victims. So that is one signal. But we would encourage, Ugandans out there, especially the voters. I would still urge our people to be, law abiding, to play their games within, the constitutional arena, and let them, challenge any findings or document. I know that a large section of Ugandans, right now are saying that the judiciary has been compromised to a large extent. There's a state capture because if you listen in what the magistrate was, if you watch, I watch on YouTube, it was unbelievable. So that's a clear kind of sign that sometimes some of the state officials are kind of coached and just kind of directed like robots on how to act. She did not act in an independent way from my own worldview. I would expect her to have maybe even been more, you know, uh, inclusive by trying to listen on both sides and how to make a more common ground so that even the accused would be listened, also given a fair kind of hearing. So to me, Sarah did not get a fair hearing. She was bundled up first and taken back to custody. So that for me raises a lot of concerns. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Chen, for that. Francis Kamhanda, I come to you, and we see that these the events they're looking. It puts Uganda on a very tight leash because everybody is now looking at us. The East African community and partners, development partners, donor nations, international organizations, external election observers. Let's take cognizant of the fact that last year, several countries in in the region faced post-election unrest. There was election credibility has become a regional talking point. We're saying that Uganda's conduct ahead of its election shapes not only internal politics, but also foreign relations and investment confidence. And Francis, this is a conversation we've had over and over and over again. And I will ask a question that I still have not found answers to. Why do we repeat the same patterns? Why is it that every election cycle we are back at the same conversation? Human rights violations, civics, shrinking civic space, all these unrests, rather arrests, arbitrary arrests that people trumped up charges. Why do we always come back to the same pattern? Francis.
Thank you, Lynn, and my fellow panelists and all our viewers. And I will begin by saying it is so unfortunate, but it is not surprising that Dr. Sarah Greta was arrested, because given the environment under which you operate, I have always made it a point that every time I pray, I pray for my fellow Ugandans who are back home living in that kind of situation. And back to your question, you were asking me, why do we normally go through the same cycle over and over? To begin with, I normally use my words selectively. One day we were on this show with Simon, and I told him that the NRM has graduated from being a dictatorship to being a terrorist organization. And Simon did not take it in good faith. But let me read the definition of terrorism, where I derive my conclusion. Terrorism, according to the dictionary, it says the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. So, that already clearly shows is what the NRM, the police, and the army doing in Uganda. Does it qualify it to be terrorism? To me, it is. They are terrorists. And then when it comes to the head of that terrorist regime, who is the President Museveni, I normally look at him as a political hypochondriac who will fear, I would say, leveled ground, who will, I think Museveni and the NRM, they behave like an ostrich. They bury their head in the sand and then pretend that nothing is happening. I heard what Nancy was saying, that every step they would make, they would tell them there is an order that has come from above, wherever it is coming from. And so that makes Uganda in an awkward situation, or with the Ugandans in an awkward situation. Not that we don't know the democratic processes and so on, but because there is one person or two who have decided to be the state, and the state is themselves, and then they have to rule everything. Lynn, if you remember the prominent ruling after Amama Babas had lost an election in, I think it was 2016, and then the ruling was outlining, or he went to court specifying what he believed could be some of the reforms, and the court agreed with him. And then we said, okay, can we bring a process so that we have these constitutional reforms? But none of those constitutional reforms has come to materialize, which would help. For example, one of them was disband the whole of the Electoral Commission, and then we put a neutral one, and we follow procedures that the president maybe proposes, and then you find the parliament does its work of vetting and so on and so forth, and so many other related, like the use of the incumbent or the president using state funds and so on, corruption in votes, and so many other reforms. And we thought we were heading into a positive conversation. But as I have said, the problem is not Ugandan. The problem is the terrorism meted by the current government. That they have been reduced. I was watching today a clip, I think it happened in Mbale, where Robert Sentamu, the candidate for NUP, was having a rally. Yes, they pounded on a young man, hit him seriously, and he was bleeding, and they did not care. If I may recall, I think before the formal coming of the missionaries to Uganda, the first early missionaries, when they came to parts of North Africa and so on, they were baptizing Christians, but then they did not believe that maybe people of other groups had a soul, and then they would say, we baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and then they would add the phrase, in case you have a soul, also in the name of the Holy Spirit. So when I looked at these people brutalizing this young person, I asked myself, do these people have souls? Do these people have children? Do they have brothers and sisters? Are they monsters? Are they animals? And at one time there is a person who cracked a joke, which I will not explain. Like, was trying to say what the word police in full means. And I was like, these jokes tend to be like as if it is a reality. So if we come to Dr. Sarah Birete, is not a fugitive. And we have always said this, that nobody in Uganda is above the law. It is simple. Write a sermon. Let the person know that is needed. I don't think that Dr. Sarah Birete would run. She would move to go and report to police, and then they make investigation. Nancy was saying, even when they were at police, they had not prepared any charges. Now they are going to investigate, and yet before you arrest, you have to fully investigate. So I think we shall keep going to the same like drawing board over and over, just because of the kind of dictatorship that we have, which has graduated into terrorism, intimidate the civilians as much as they can, so that we have nothing that we can do, or we live in constant fear. So this is where I think the problem stems. But now the solution for sure is it would be simple. Number one, to realize that Uganda belongs to all of us. And therefore, if it belongs to all of us, we have to put systems that are working for all of us. If it is elections, we have to have a neutral electoral commission. If we have the constitution, we have to go back and follow what the constitution says, not what the order from above. So to me, I believe that even when the NRM and its leadership argue that they are patriotic, they are not. I don't see any patriotism in them. Because being somebody who is patriotic would also call to speak the truth, to be transparent, to be accountable. If in any case what they are choosing Dr. Birete of has been calling for transparency, we have all, like we have Dr. Chen has talked elaboratively or about Article 41, where we have the right to access information. So if you are choosing me of accessing information, then equally you are telling me that, look here, I don't want Ugandans to be enlightened. I want Ugandans who are ignorant. Basically, that's what it is saying. But otherwise, we have the right to access all this information and know what is taking place and so on. And given the position that Dr. Sarah holds, it is even helping government, by the way, to say that, okay, as a civil society, we have also observed the election, they have moved very well, or we have XYZ according to our report, and so on. But they just fear of the unknown. I know the reason why she was arrested, given that this is an influential person, not only in Uganda, but also in Africa and even internationally, in as far as elections are concerned and observing. So, and that's why even they refused high bail. They just want after the election. But now, if you fear a civilian Dr. Virete, then what is left with you? That's why I'm saying that the Museveni and his leadership, they are just political hypochondriacs, fearing of nothing, but then they are making grave mistakes. And believe me, Lynn, it's the NRM that is running our country down. If our country ever burns, it is the NRM. Because gone are the days where they think they would run down 100, 200 dead bodies down the street, and then everybody will fold their hands and then watch them do what they are doing. Otherwise, I'm praying that they come to their senses and ensure that we run an election that is smooth, but which I don't think, because they have defied all the odds in as far as the intimidation and violence is concerned. And I believe even on the election day, they are prepared to meet even much more terrorism or to unleash much more terrorism on Ugandans. And this is not a good path. Thank you. Going back to the constitution is what will solve the problem. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Francis. And talking about the Constitution, we know that Dr. Sarah Birete has been one of the, I believe, a guardian of the Ugandan Constitution. She's strongly against tampering with it, and she's always reminding us that the Constitution is the holy book of the country, and the country, we ought to hold the country in high esteem because it will be here long after we are gone. Well, Dr. Chisambira is off the operating table. He has just joined us. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Chisambira. I want to speak to Albert Bakasara right now. And Albert, elections globally. We see a moments of hate and tension between security and freedoms. We see civic space, includes the ability to speak freely, organize, monitor governance, and all without fear. We understand and we know for sure that Uganda has one of the strongest constitutional frameworks, but we also know that its implementation remains highly contested, I beg your pardon. As we head into, as come January 15th, where do you see the line between public order and continued suppression of dissent?
Hello, greetings everyone, and Happy New Year to you, Lane, and your colleagues at the Center for Constitutional Governance. My friend Francis Chen, and I think I've been on here with the doctor. So greetings to everyone, and Happy New Year. It's cold here, and I usually like the car because it's usually quiet. I have a very loud house with a little dog that barks and makes all the noises at will. So I actually prefer the cars, a nice quiet space for these conversations. So having said that, well, nothing really that a warm scarf and a cup of tea of coffee won't heal. So we're good. I wish I could say the same for you, Lynn, and your colleagues at the Center for Constitutional Governance. I know earlier we said that this is not over, and Sarah is our Dr. Virete is the beginning. And it is. Before this saddle deal is over, many of us will meet the same fate. Many of us will be treated how Dr. Virete is being treated, or even worse. So let's have that as a reality. I appreciate that we are having this conversation, but also contextualizing it in normal terms. But these are not normal terms and not normal times. I think there's something happening in Uganda that no one knows the end. we could come out of this ordeal stronger as a country, as a people, or we could blow everything up. And I'm here, through my experience, through following Uganda politics and global politics, the constitutional politics that Lynn is referencing, I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that no one in Uganda can tell you what Uganda will be like the day after the election, the day of the election, or a week from then. No one can. The country is panicked. Highly trained generals with all their ranks have no answer for what is happening. And this has been coming. This is not new, by the way. They have watched this train come, and some of them have fueled it, some of them have helped it along the way. This is where we are. So it is sad because Sarah, and I don't know Sarah that well to call her Sarah. Maybe I should kind of limit myself to Dr. Birete, but I've met her a couple of times. I think the last time was at the UNA conventions here in Washington, D.C., where I gave them a ride, Sarah and Miriam, to their hotel. She's always been a happy warrior. So to answer the first question you asked is like, why is this arising global concerns and everything? Because of who Dr. Birete is. She's a happy warrior. Some of us sometimes get carried away. We have angry tones and angry words. Not Sarah. Sarah would just lay down the facts. If she was for something, she would say what she was for. If she was opposed to something, she would say what she was opposed to and then to against. So it's that kind of a person and a personality that evokes all these emotions that you're seeing people up in arms. Again, we're not in normal times, so we should not be debating this in normal terms. We should accept that the government, the people in power have lost control of the country. Once we accept that, then let's talk about what do we do and what are the consequences. So that would be my contribution. My contribution I want as a trained and well-paid analyst and a good student of Uganda politics. I'm here to say that there's a cost to these things. I don't think our policy leaders in Kampala or our military or political leaders, I don't think they consider these things. We woke up this morning here in Washington, D.C., to the news that the president of Venezuela has been overthrown, actually captured. Now, people would be shocked because when this government here, this administration of Donald Trump was sworn in January, there were actually plans of the U.S. working with Venezuela, and everything was on the up and up, and there were even back channels and direct phone calls between Maduro and President Trump. Today, he's in custody. That's a cost of not understanding how global politics work, especially the U.S. role. Right now, as we speak, there are 39 countries that have been put under immigration bans of all kinds, from visas to trade to even people who come from those countries who are here, who even have papers, of those papers being revoked. And out of those 39 countries, the overwhelming majority are African countries. Uganda, for now, remains as an island in there. Burundi is on the list. Tanzania to our south is on the list. To our north, both South Sudan and Sudan are on the list. Somalia is on the list. So we're like remaining there. About maybe 6 months ago, Tanzania was safe. It was not even anywhere close to that risk. I mean, the list. So how did Tanzania get themselves on the list? The violence that happened after the elections. So those are the costs that I'm talking about that generals in Uganda are not even paying attention to. You put Uganda on that list, and I can guarantee you, having been a good student of American politics, I can tell you, you have chaos in Uganda leading up to the election or after the election, you are on that list. I can tell you can quote me. You will be on that list. And when you're on that list, it complicates the negotiations you have. Even if that being on the list still keeps the president in power, it gives other people, the US, our adopted homeland here, it gives them a leg up in bargaining with Uganda. In keeping Museveni in power, there will be a cost that Uganda will pay. And they will pay that cost. They will pay that cost until the US will realize, it's no longer worth it, just like they did with Maduro. And then it will be over. So the question is, why don't we look at these things and these costs and say, you know what, let's spare the country that. I asked in one of these conversations, I think it was last year, if there was any university in Uganda, private or public, that teaches or has a course, whether or at any level, on American studies. And I think that the answer was no then. I don't know if that has changed, but it still puzzles me how now among all the higher institutions in Uganda, there's no kid who is graduating understanding how this global superpower works. And I don't think it's a unique experience for Uganda. I think Tanzania, I think Rwanda, I think Congo, it's the same thing. And then you see Congo and Rwanda coming here in the White House, being given lawn chairs to sit and negotiate and sign a deal, handing all their negotiating power to a foreign leader. And then they sign a deal. You should read that deal. I actually have, to see what they have given away because they couldn't work out their issues. It's the same thing. That's a cost of not understanding how global politics shift, how alliances shift. It's where Uganda is. So I really, really feel sorry for you, Sarah, who are on the ground. But I also know, like I said in the beginning, this is going to be on all of us. It's going to be on all of us. I did not travel to Uganda this December as I customarily do every December, and that was one of the reasons. I didn't think this was the right time for me to travel in case I was going to be arrested and stopped for whatever I said or didn't say or whatever I imagined offended who. I did not. I had some warnings and I'm like, you know what? I'll heed your warnings. I will not travel. And I stayed put. I would have loved to come to Uganda. And I will come. It's not like I'm going next year. I have not committed a crime. I will at some point come. Later this year, I'll be in Uganda. If they want to arrest them, but maybe I'll be ready now. But this December, I was not ready. Okay? So, yes, something bad is happening to the executive director of this organization that we love. An organization that is actually doing a very good and noble thing. So all I can ask our panelists when we're debating this, and what I can encourage you as the staff at Center for Constitutional Governance, please do not keep discussing this in normal terms because it's not normal. And I do slightly disagree with Dr. Chen. I don't think that this was done out of intimidation. I think by now, the government of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has realized that intimidation is not going to work. He knows it. He knows Obote used it didn't work. He knows others have used it did not work. He knows it. Museveni is a very good student of global politics, actually, and a very brilliant strategist. I think they have reached a conclusion that will not work. They have not been able to intimidate Kyagulanyi. They have not been able to intimidate Nup. It's not going to work. I think why Dr. Lete was arrested is because this government is now operating in a military mode. And this is akin to an army that has encircled a people and they're prodding. They arrested Dr. Birete to see the reaction as they go up the chain on who would next to arrest, to next. It's gauging the people's reaction. It's a prod. It's not an intimidation tactic. It's a prod. It's a military tactic where you prod to see where the weak defenses are. Where do we go in? but it's not an intimidation. They know that people will not stop talking or waving flags of Uganda because Sarah has been arrested. They know that. They know the world will be up in arms. They know we'll sit and talk about it on a show like this. They know all this. So that's not why she's in jail. She's in jail because it's a prod. They want to see what is the reaction. What they do not anticipate, or what they're not anticipating, is that just like they are prodding, they're also strengthening the defenses and giving other people alternatives and insights on how they operate. So I'll stop there for now. Thank you so much again. And again, you're in our thoughts and prayers. But again, it's a wagon that probably will touch many of us. It's sad because it does affect families. We were supposed to be here with Miriam. I'm sure one of the reasons is because probably she's not in a capable state to discuss this, because she has confided that she's not dealing well with this. And that's the cost. The family, Sarah has kids. She has a life. You talked about medication. Yeah, you don't want to really put your health in Seven's machine when you have a health condition. So all those things are not good. And for that, we share your concerns, and we sympathize with you, and we will do our best to keep amplifying that this is not normal and it should stop. But I'm here to tell you, I don't even think the government now knows how to stop it. It's like they've created this monster, and they're riding a tiger and they don't know how to get off of it. They have no control. They have no control.
Right.
So I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you, Albert. In the chat room, Francis Kamhanda says the collapse of institutions in Uganda is a precursor to all these. We have no career diplomats. We have fishermen as ministers running the country, and the likes of butchermen as presidential advisors. Yes. Dr. Chisambira, I come to you. Thank you once again for joining us, and Happy New Year. So as we have all seen previously, or from what our panelists have so far said, it is not an isolated legal incident. It has become a political symbol within a broader pre-election environment that is so far characterized by heightened security policy orientation, tense civic state relations. We are seeing competing narratives on transparency versus control. In the case of what the charges against Dr. Sarah, regional and international scrutiny that has been here forever, public anxiety about democratic legitimacy, and all these factors, fitting into how we go into January the 15th. Trust, inclusion, and openness are central to how citizens perceive the general election. Now, I ask you, and my question to you, Dr. Chisambira, is that how do these arrests, because like we said, it is not isolated. She's not the first one to be arrested, but she's one of the prominent ones. How do these arrests and restrictions that we are seeing, of course, during the campaigns as well, how do they, affect voter confidence?
Hello, yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is okay. Welcome to the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for keeping the show live and very active, because sometimes what breaks all of us is maintenance and perpetuity of the cause. As to why we start certain programs. But thank you to all the brains behind this show. I salute you all and I wish you a very happy and nice 2026. Yes, thank you, Lynn, for that question, and thank you, panelists, for your deliberations. With due respect, allow me to first disagree with Mr. Albert Bakasara. Partly disagree, but also inform him that he was trying to mean the same thing, just in a different way, by saying that arrests are not about intimidation. And when you confidently quote that Mr. Museveni is the best student of either African politics or geopolitics, I don't think you're being right at that, because right about now, at this point, we are at sort of a checkpoint or a turning point of whatever lessons he has learned or not learned properly in one way or the other. Because when you look at in the study in the population studies, there's some theories that I want to quote from the Malthusian theory, which states that I think population growth is quite exponential, but at some point it is checked by the availability of the resources and productivity of the population in maintaining their existence. So there's always a checkpoint at some level that is done by the resources versus the numbers. And when you draw this same example towards the side of politics, there is an exponential growth for the love and cling on power as a behavior of some of the African leaders. And where it has ended, I believe if Museveni has been a very good student, as you've said, he would have learned from some of the scenarios and moments that have happened in different countries, including Sudan, Libya, Syria, to mention but a few. So I disagree with you by saying Museveni is not the best student. For the same, he has not learned from history, and he wants to think he'll create new history for himself that works his own way, yet he's using the same methods that other people used but did not end up where he wants to end up. So it's still about intimidation. You see, when you arrest someone of integrity like Sarah, and you think one of the strategies is not about to intimidate those that are behind her, I think you're wrong in that assertion. And I believe that actually the main strategy is because when you examine Sarah's charge sheet and explanation of her offense, it is okay, they might have a point in their own view, because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but I would say that there is no serious offense that one would base on to say, according to this section of the Constitution, someone has gone wrong here. You get so, but you realize that the drive, what motivates this arrest is that if we do not arrest Sarah, then also others will act the same way, and it will get to a point that we cannot arrest all of them at a go. But if we do this arrest today, maybe we shall prevent others from behaving the same or picking up, copying Sarah's ways, or borrowing a leaf from what Sarah did. So I think it is part of intimidation. And secondly, in the population or in our societies, actually specifically to say the role of civil societies in our societal settings is in such a way that they the checkpoints of what people who are in charge or entrusted with our governance, they're the checkpoints to check what are these guys doing with the power that we entrusted with them. So some of the numbers in the population look at those people as icons or beacons of hope in one way or the other. Just take it from an example of a captain of a ship on a sea. And when a calamity befalls the ship and it hits the captain, trust me, you would be wrong if you think the occupants of that ship are not shaken in any way. You understand what I mean? Because they have no idea of how to direct the ship and where to tell it is going or to read the weather conditions on the sea. But the person who has been doing that role on their behalf to instill confidence in them and have confidence in that means of transport to get them where they are going has been affected by a certain calamity. Same thing here. Sarah's civil society space and her actions have been, a light for some of us who are walking in darkness and are not aware of the negatives in our governance. So if she has been taken away in such a critical moment where citizens have to express their mandate, their power to decide who should have the mantle of deciding how their society and resources are going to be governed, such a person is taken away, trust me, the rest of the people remaining behind are intimidated. So going to Lynn's question about voter confidence and turn up, in such a time. I want to tell you, Sarah's arrest is going to demotivate some voters. They may not turn up because they are looking at this whole election as a sham process, and they will not have confidence in it, because I think Sarah has been to several countries as an election observer. Yeah. So when it's happening back home here at our own place, and during a time in which she could have been resourceful to the society which feels deprived of some rights, and an activist who is fighting for their rights has been apprehended in such a critical moment, some of them will look at the process as sham, and it affects negatively their confidence in the process, in the electoral process, and so it does to their participation in their legal mandate or rights or civic right of participating in an election. But in general, what the government is doing, here at this point, I want to agree with the rest of the speakers that it is trying to sow a seed that they are not aware of its fruits at all. Actually, they are not minding about any of the outcomes. I want to give you an example. Recently, I saw some clips from, I think, Zimbabwe and Bukedia, where there was a confrontation between supporters of two different camps, NUP and NRM. From Zimbabwe, a group of NRM youths, I think, tried to block the road for an NUP candidate. So there was a confrontation from this side. It ended up in two people being stoned and beating one another, chasing after the other. Then Bukedia, I think, when I don't know, I mean, I read to be corrected, but how I read the post, it was that the chairman NRM of that district has led a certain group to break down and to vandalize shops and houses of opposition leaders in a certain town. I mean opposition supporters in a certain town. So when you look at such scenarios, they look to be isolated case scenarios in different districts, but it's a potential bushfire that can spread across the country. Even before you think about the different lines that would divide us as citizens of Uganda, that particular incident of allowing certain goons do certain things that demean the civic right of other people, constitutional right of other people exercising their interest. Let's be opposition leaders attacking people supporting the ruling government, or people in the ruling government supporting their own goons to go and inflict torture or any sort of danger to citizens. That is how havoc and chaos is going to begin in Uganda. So they have put the lenses elsewhere, allowing people like, if I'm remembering the name very well, I think it's Major Kutesa also, who has ordered a certain group of goons to beat up people holding national flags, break into shops that for people who have hung national flags in there. So it's going to, the same people are living on the same village, and you're sowing this seed into them. Trust me, the national flag is not going to go away after elections. People are still going to have these with them, and they will not forget the memories. They will not let go of the memories of the people who did to them harm during this election process. And they are waiting for that time when the protectors have gone away, because today Major Kutesa is dealing with the ghetto structures, allowing goons to operate with impunity. But tomorrow he's not going to be there. But the people who are fighting each other are living in the same community. So there is not going to be police, neither the army, after elections, but people are going to keep fighting because of belonging to different political parties. So all this feeds into the election cycle and the election process. It is demeaning the electoral process. It is affecting voter confidence. It's going to affect voter turnout seriously, actually very, very serious, because several people of different camps are going to see this process as a negative contribution to their governance process and decision making. So this is what I think, Lynn, in that line, and the rest of the panelists. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chisambira. I see in the chat room, Francis Kamhanda is saying, I agree with Dr. Chisambira. Museveni is like the Bourbon monarchy of France in the 1830s, who learned nothing and forgot nothing. Equally, Museveni has learned nothing and forgotten nothing about the history of Uganda. and Africa. Well, there's so much that we get to learn from all this. And like I said earlier, these are not isolated incidents. These have happened before. If you remember the last election cycle, we had even worse scenarios happening. If you remember, there were arrests. There was chaos. But now, again, we are likely to see a repetition of all that, and hopefully it doesn't happen. That is what we are hoping for. But coming back to you, Dr. Ochen, from what has been said, and what all this, looks at, elections should rather strengthen institutions and not weaken them. But from what I'm gathering from you, my panelists today, is that these institutions that we have are already weak. They're at the mercy of those in leadership. Um, how can we balance security needs with democratic legitimacy? If such a thing can really exist in Uganda, democratic legitimacy. We have often said we're a democratic country, but looking down at what we do, how we execute what we do, oftentimes our institutions certainly are screaming we are not democratic. So how can we balance security needs, which are often fronted by the government, and with democratic legitimacy? Dr. Chen.
Thank you very much. Firstly, allow me to just say thank you, Dr. Kisambira, for trying to make some clarification on the submissions by my friend Albert. In fact, you indicated so well that trying to intimidate the people, and what my friend Albert was trying to state pretty much the same thing. We're just using different words. So the fact, as I said before, and I do agree with you fully, that the state and the NRM organization is trying to twist, the civic or the civil society and the opposition, so that they get shy, they get timid, so that they get intimidated and become mute, and that would work to their advantage. And that's why they're trying to select and identify the brave actors like Sarah. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Then now to Lane's question. Yeah, as I said before, I believe in the rule of law. If we could all respect the constitution, I think the country would be peaceful and progressive from all aspects. There are 7 fundamental human rights principles, and those entails things like right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education. Okay, if our state or our government promote those major cardinal principles of human rights, okay, there would be peace and tranquility. That means there would be less issues regarding insecurity. That's one. And how do you balance security and democratic practices? Let the nationals, let the citizens express themselves, assemble, let the citizens have the liberty to identify and elect leaders of their choices without intimidating, without interferences, without bribery, without manipulations. In that way, you're going to usher in more authentic electoral processes, and as a result you elect leaders who will reflect the wishes and the interests and desires of the electorates. and that would minimize, like tensions and conflicts from the people. And two, I think we can balance very well security and democratic progression if the country or the government of Uganda would strengthen the different state institutions, okay, like the police, the army, the EC, the judiciary, and so on, without any interferences. Now you see at the moment, as Ugandans are going into election mid this year, mid this month, you find out that a number of Ugandans were already reluctant and they have no faith in EC, Electoral Commission, which is very unfortunate. So if at all, even the process of identifying the electoral commissioners were inclusive, whereby all stakeholders will be involved in identifying, recruiting, and the electoral commissioners, they will have faith in the electoral processes, the management, and the outcomes. And that will minimize, chaos and insecurity within the country. So the two go hand in hand. If the state involves the people and listens to the wishes, the aspirations, the interests, the desires, and respects the rights of its people, there would be, no any political instability. So we would foster things like inclusivity would be very important in the country, whereby in the EC include everybody, let even the opposition, have a representative, let the civic society have representation, the church. Is done that way in other countries. I've known a country like Kenya, when they were going into the first, election, that was how it was done, and it was kind of well received, embraced by all the key political stakeholders because it was inclusive. And even right now, if you see, like electoral commissioners, they would advertise, the post out and let capable and qualified Ugandans apply, and then they're shortlisted. Then they're taken to parliament for interview, public, interview with professionals. In that way, you're going to win the faith and the confidence of the citizens. So, and two, also, I would think to have a more meaningful democratic space in Uganda, we need to support the civic or civil societies to go out and empower the locals by trying to train them about the rights, okay, their rights, the respective rights. So when the time for voting comes, you know why you are voting. If you're going to vote an MP, you know the roles of an MP. You know the roles of an LC5 chairman, LC3 chairman, councillor, you know all the roles. And you tell them about the dangers of bribery, vote bribery or the things of salt, sugar. You teach them about all this kind of thing. It should be intentional kind of education, countrywide, before even the elections. In that way, you are building, the democratic spaces and processes. And also, you ensure that the military, the police, the state, the security agencies stay away from that. Yeah. So the two are actually twins, are one. It's very hard to discuss in isolation. Security and democratic processes go hand in hand. If we can respect the legal rights that are safeguarded by the law in ensuring individuals or groups to enjoy certain rights and benefits without any interferences, we are good to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chan. Indeed, they go hand in hand. Albert
Can you,
Bakasara in the classroom says, I concede that the arrest of Dr. Birete is partly to intimidate, but not the primary reason or motive. I still believe it is to prod the opposition reactions and defenses. On Museveni being a good student of history and one of the best strategists around, I stand by that. However, I'm distinguishing between having intelligence or knowledge and applying the same. And I agree that there is an element of hubris. Museveni thinks he can craft a different fate for himself. Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Francis Kamhanda. Um, again but I want us to use now the diaspora lens. I want us to look at it from the diaspora angle. Uganda's elections, we know, are watched by regional partners, development partners, of course our Ugandan diaspora, and all these perceptions influence investment, they influence aid, they influence diplomatic relations, they influence how we relate elsewhere. Now, the question, Francis, here is that what role is the Uganda diaspora right now playing in terms of advocacy, dialogue, or restraint? And are these reactions helpful or counterproductive? Especially as we go into January 15th, we have a few weeks to go. And of course, I remember we had a conversation about if the Uganda diaspora will be able to vote. How does all this play into the days leading up to January the 15th?
Thank you, Lynn, and the fellow panelists. You know, the role of the diaspora has always been clear in as far as Ugandan politics is concerned. Also, I would say Africa, because you remember even during the fight against colonialism, the diaspora had a role to play. And basically, I would say literally, it has always been the growth of all the learning and then using of knowledge, the transfer of knowledge back home, or best practices, as I would put it. But Bakasara has pointed out a very good point, that knowing or having the knowledge and applying it are two different things. And I want to use it in a way that the diaspora has always been there, like to give their comment, to dialogue with whoever is ruling in different aspects, and also to give in their input or suggestions in as far as the development of our country is concerned. But it goes back then to the people who are managing our country. Like, instead of collaborating with the diaspora, but again, there is witch hunt. And I will again quote Albert. In the shows that we have always been with him here, he has always said each and every Ugandan is like an ambassador of Uganda in the diaspora. And he has always argued that, okay, before you say that maybe people in the diaspora are against the government or they speak ill, can you give me a good product to market? So, up to now, like, that has stuck in my mind what Albert once said. What is that good thing that you are giving me to market out? And therefore, coming to the diaspora, like, as has said during the pre-colonial time, we have always come together. You have heard of UNA and other several diaspora organizations in different continents of the world. We try to come together and say, what can we offer to our country? And sometimes they are good debates or dialogue and engagement. But our government, its will is ill in as far as incorporating the diaspora is concerned. But rather, in a way, how they want to do it is in a way of how you see how they go and buy off. And they want only to hear and listen to what they want to listen to, and they fear the real constructive and positive criticism and engagement. So that's where we find ourselves in a big dilemma. And then it appears as if it is a standoff between the government and the diaspora. Like as I speak now here in North America, we already have a team that even what is happening back home, the brutality, the intimidation, the arbitrary arrest, the torture, the killing, name it, they are sounding drums that it's okay. If need be, you heard Albert saying that you don't know whether you will step in Uganda and you will not be arrested. The lists are being made. Even when you give a comment on a platform that I think this is wrong, then the next thing it is already in the headquarters. And we have seen those who are arrested, the very either post that they posted on a group saying, no, this is wrong, this must stop. And it's what they bring. Did you ever write this? Or did you ever give this comment? So all these stifle what would be our role. But we are not stopping. We have engaged and will continue to engage. And most important, what is disheartening is that even when we come up with these structures that even are non-partisan, by the way, but they have been polarized again by the ruling government, by the NRA, even when people can work together and agree, because we are all civil people, we know how to engage, we know what to discuss and so on. And then of course, like when we come and then say, Lean, these are the plans we have, or we are trying to do this and so on. We believe that is a healthy dialogue and debate. But government comes in to break. But we still feel sometimes we reach a time of the crossroad. And Albert talked about one important thing, that depending on the global politics, and it's what I'm saying, that as we go into these elections, depending on how they will turn out, it affects both regional and international relationships between Uganda and the rest of the world, and therefore it ends up affecting what we would call engagement. Because engagement, people who want to invest, they engage with you with a lot of care and caution because of fear of the unknown, or of fear of the way how you are behaving. And of course, people are aware that once governments are run like the way how Uganda is run, down the road, the ending will not be good. And so, like an investor will not risk Lean, because these are investments that a person will want an investment. You have heard of companies that it will run for 100 years and plus, in a country that is going to turn into a Syria, in a country that is going to turn into a Libya, and so on. So we continue to say that engaging the diaspora in a more positive and constructive way, because the diaspora, you will not expect that you will give them 2,000 Ugandan shillings each and then you say, go and do this. People can analyze on themselves, they can independently articulate or analyze things and argue. What we need is a constructive engagement that is full of respect. And also, like, the approaches we use is pragmatic. We need what works. So if something doesn't work, then it doesn't exist. So we are at a point where we need such a solutions for Uganda as the diaspora, and we are concerned. And you had last time, we have had arguments of how can the diaspora get involved in voting, and we have put across what do we need, like the benchmarks. What do we need if we participate in voting, not for the sake of voting, for just saying we are going to vote and so on. And Lynn, that applies even to Uganda. By the way, currently I know the registered voters are over 18 million Ugandans. But don't get surprised, the turn-up will be maybe 10 millions or less. Why? And look at the nature of the people who are abstaining from voting. Maybe they are the ones who see that even if I vote, it is like more like useless. So you find that either intentionally or deliberately, which I think it is, there is a class of people that the NRM system has pushed out or has defranchised, has pushed out of politics, so that they bring in the likes of Butcherman and the rest, which is not good for our country. But the diaspora has always been open, or we are always been open for engagement. But what is derailing, or what is most painful for us, that even when we bring or we engage in constructive engagement, positive solutions that we believe have worked, or systems that where the likes of Bakasara working in government and so on, they see working, but back home it's not. It's not. So that's the most painful part, that we would all wish during our time to see a real Ugandan that is functioning, a real Ugandan that where services are functioning, where a honorable minister is having a problem where in Kabale, they can still treat him from there. They don't send a helicopter to come and pick him. Where we find that if it is a system of government that is working, is fair for everybody, not where we see the president saying that he earns around 4 million, if not 5, but then they go on a rally and the speaker is saying, President, you gave so and so 1 billion, you have a good heart to go for treatment. And yet for us, we say, okay, if it is treatment, that is not the president's money. If it is for government, then it should be equal to any other Ugandan. And right. You think that. So I think we need constructive dialogue and engagement. There is a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise that we have that we think can help, not only in these electoral reforms, but in development across the board. Thank you.
Absolutely. Indeed, across the board. Thank you very much, Francis, for that. And of course, we know that the Uganda diaspora are very critical and are also very instrumental in how our country or our governance, our institutions are, governed and how they progress going forward. Albert Bakasara, as we begin to come to the conclusion of this show, we have a number of minutes, of course. I want to indulge you, Albert. You have worked with communities, diasporan communities, Uganda diasporan communities in Washington and of course in the US there. What conversations do they want to have? What conversations do they want to bring home, especially in reducing tensions ahead of January 15th? Because as tensions build, world over, we are being watched. And this affects definitely how everyone around you, the ones in diaspora, are viewed. So what conversations would you want us back home to have to reduce the tensions and to prepare comfortably and without any problems ahead of January 15th?
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, fellow panelists. I want to echo what Francis has been saying, something that I have said before. There's really nothing new to invent here. We want good stories about our country. We love Uganda. But somehow in the policymakers and leaders in Uganda, we became, I'm not even sure how it happened, we became the enemies. I think I could trace back the roots of that to the rebel movement that Museveni led in the 80s, because it was supported more by the diaspora community. Those are the people who gave him money and guns and stuff. And he never forgot that. Even when the world changed, he never forgot that. So really, we've always been viewed with this high level of suspicion contempt, and every conversation that we've had with Uganda, it has always been, oh, come invest, leave, don't have any input, don't do that. But we cannot keep doing that. And some of us don't. I will give you a good example. There was a diaspora conference. I think the last time they did the inaugural one, we actually had it on this show and we discussed it. I didn't even bother to tune in. This time they actually did put it online. No, I didn't even bother to tune in or register or participate in because I know it's meaningless. And I'll give you a good example. The URA recently put out their new taxation and requirements for people living overseas to file their taxes. The law was passed in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. They've been having all these meaningless conversations and coming here to our conventions at UNA and the rest of them. They never said anything about it. The people that they were going to tax, or the people that these rules were going to affect, were never consulted. And yet you have lawyers, taxation experts, we had no input. So I was talking to friends here and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then you want to do a conference, you want me to fly to Kampala and attend the conference at Munyonyo, and you're telling me that I'm important? I'm not. Clearly I'm not. So those are the kind of things that we would like to see. Those are the kind of the conversation. Put us on the table. Not because we're entitled, not because we're so special, but because we might have something to add on to the conversations that make our country a better place. Honestly, I would rather, when I come to Uganda, Francis was saying that I'm not fearful that I will be arrested. By the time you get on the plane, you reach there, because again, I said in the beginning, this is not normal. So when I reach Uganda, and I guarantee you, if you went right now and talked to Dr. Birete and said, did you ever imagine you could be arrested? She'll say, oh yeah. So it's the same thing. If I landed in an interview and they handcuffed me and put me in some cell, it will not be a shock to me. It will be a shock to my wife and kids, but not to me, because I have already agreed, I've already put it in my mind that Uganda is no longer operating as a normal country. It's, you go there because you love it, you go there because that's your motherland, you go there because you have family, but you go there knowing everything is off the table. Not off the table, on the table actually. Anything and everything is on the table. So you do not know what may or may not happen. So I'm not fearful. But again, to answer directly your question, give us those good stories. Let us sell them. Let us market our country. If you have something that affects us, like right now, it's not like we don't talk. We do. When Uganda was passing the Anti-Homosexuality Act, we talked. We said, guys, don't do this. They passed it. It put us in the doghouse all through the Biden administration. We lost millions. We lost funding. We lost everything. Now a new president comes in here in the U.S. Clearly, everybody can see what is happening. You could draw a line among about 22 African countries that are on the travel ban, and the only one, the one constant among all those countries is violence and insecurity. The U.S. no longer thinks that it's a good idea to give visas from people from Tanzania or South Sudan or Burundi, countries that are unstable, DRC, because they don't know who is in there. The countries do not have right processes, and that is the right of the U.S., and I applaud that. But we have not caught on to that, and we will land ourselves on that list. What are the consequences of landing on the list? I'll let your viewers research those. They will affect both the people in Uganda as far as remittances are concerned. They will affect the people here. And it will even cause a more security problem for Museveni, because if he thinks people now in the diaspora hate him, wait until he gets them deported back to Uganda and see how that works out. Okay? At least when they are here, they can sustain their families and stuff. And wait until they round them up and send them, because somehow you landed Uganda on the travel ban, and see how that works out as a security protocol. So those are the things. And even us who are here, you get extra scrutiny. Look at the Somali immigrants in the state of Minnesota, the kind of scrutiny they are under right now. Not good. Do we really want that? And yes, they can treasure the relationship that the U.S. has with Uganda right now, and it's there. It's there. The U.S. still have forces and a role in Somalia. Just a couple of days ago, I was reading about the bombings that took place. I'm sure Uganda has a part in that, picking targets and all that. They've become experts. We've been in Somalia for ages. So if anybody knows Somalia, it's the Ugandan forces. But at some point, that will wear off. At some point, the U.S. will sit, some policymakers will sit and say, you know what? The juice is no longer worth the squeeze. And when that happens, they will not write a memo, they will not issue a warning. You will be in Maduro's shoes today. And that does not help a country. It does not help a country. So we are talking. It's not like we're talking. We're not keeping these things to ourselves. But of course, nobody listens. And who is Albert? He's just, that's how he talks. Fine. Fine. You keep doing that, but we can see. We can see. And it's again, it's the hubris that I'm talking about. It's also the dismissal and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there are experts here. The diaspora that is being dismissed, the diaspora that is being antagonized, have some experts. Forget me. There are the people who work in very high places and very well placed to know information that could actually help our country position itself in the right light. But the policymakers in Kampala listening? No. Are the leaders listening? No. They aim to stay in power, but there is a cost. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, panelists.
All right. Thank you, Albert Bakasara. Dr. Chisambida, please tell me you're not back on the operating table and we conclude on this conversation. I want to thank you, all of you, for making contribution to this important conversation today. But Dr. Chisambila, as we conclude, what lessons should Uganda carry beyond this election cycle? First and foremost, take a look at what happened in Tanzania and some other places around in the region, post-election violence and all sorts of things. Please, while you interact with this question, could you take a look at what we ought to carry beyond this election cycle? Like I said earlier at the beginning, we have seen a pattern. 2021 general elections, we saw a lot of violence, a lot of arrests, a lot of insecurity. People were not even free to move. They were scared of what could happen. Right now, still tensions are high, but we know for sure that Uganda will still be here long after we are gone.
Yes, I missed some last bit, so I beg your pardon. I missed some last bit.
I'm trying to say that could you dive into this question? What lessons should Uganda carry beyond this election cycle? Precisely.
There is one common thing that all of us are talking about right now. And that is the kind of divisionism in the society where we are because of the different cards of politics that different players are putting on table. So one, it is the responsibility of those in power to determine how the society thinks and I think how it behaves. So right now, if Uganda has not taken the lesson of how politics of identity is dividing society and how it's going to shape its behavior and thinking, then it has no lesson to take forward. But if those who are responsible are actually taking learning points in this and how it's going to help them shape how our society is going to think about politics and governance and also how it's going to behave after politics, then they will have to push some of these lessons forward after elections. Secondly, it is absurd that most of the lessons that we have and that are next to our lips to talk about are sad lessons which include constriction of the civic space, which include infringement on human rights, which include misuse of state instruments, including security and all the other apparatus, actually even money, because you've had Francis say someone was given $1 billion of shillings to go and treat themselves out of someone's ward, which would have been managed by a certain institution. So we have a lot of negative lessons to learn, but if they do not affect us positively in trying to change the way we are behaving and managing society, then it's going to take us back to what I shared earlier on the Malthusian theory, which is an issue of population numbers versus its productivity and resources. So right now, what we are seeing, I should tell all of us, and we see this vividly, that there's a constriction of resources available to share to maintain this government in power. It has constricted, whether I like it or not, the space has narrowed. So whatever is happening negatively is a cost that we are paying for what we did not put right. And if we do not stand firm, maybe if we don't have people of the sort, like maybe the director of this organization, Sarah Vilete, and people of the same caliber, if we do not have more and more of those who are willing to speak up to power, truth to power, and what is right, then we are doomed as a country, and there is no way we are going to stand out different from other nations that have had election cycles cause them trouble and land them into post-election violence and post-election chaos. So we should have learned from these countries and tried to maintain a rule of law, try to maintain protection of human rights, and at least if we fail at all, keep the institutions of government functional. I think it was Sarah's comment at one time when she said the Speaker of Parliament has postponed, has called off the House, sent them to recess because she has to be an MC on rallies of a certain candidate. So, national business is at a standstill because we have to push a certain political agenda. So that's what I'm saying, that if we do not learn from all this that has happened in other countries and has landed them where they are right now, then we have nothing to tell others. We have nothing to copy from, and we have nothing to put on table. We have no right. I don't know, we do not have the audacity to even speak about some of these things that shape good governance in our society. So Uganda has maybe the good lesson that we can learn from this is that institutions have tried to be very active in trying to push this election agenda. But the problem is that they are pushing it the wrong way. You've had the chairman EC eat his own words in contradicting with the law while he's passing guidelines. Today I was listening to Nyombi Tembo on Capital FM trying to defend his regulations of, I think they are called directions or directives on his mandate to regulate the media broadcasters. So they are doing the right thing, but the wrong way. It is right that they have to come out at this time and guide the nation on what directions to take. But the problem is that they have not exhibited impartiality as the law requires institutions of public service to remain. So Lynn, for me, no big lesson learned. Lessons are all negative. But how they affect us tomorrow, I pray that they affect us positively in trying to influence positive change for a betterment of our country indeed. Otherwise, we are at the checkpoint where the same cycle that has affected us as a country is going to repeat. The likes of the regimes of Obote, Tito Kelo, Amin, and the likes, how they ended up is most likely how this regime is going to end up if it doesn't change the way it's doing its things, because that's how those governments were fought on the same, they were fought on the same account. It was the same basis that these people picked up arms and went to fight this government. So this generation may not pick up arms, but it's going to stand steadfast in trying to defend for what is right for themselves, because this is what the cycle says. Simple as that. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Chisambira. Dr. Chen, in 1 minute, your concluding remarks, and I'll come back to Francis and then Albert as we conclude.
Thank you so much. what I can tell my fellow compatriots on the ground as they head towards the election day, that they should stay watchful and try to be law abiding so that they don't get so those who intend to torment the masses don't get the excuses, to pursue the interest. As I said before, that what's being done to others out there is to try and scare, intimidate, so that they might become mute or even to shy away from going to exercise their rights on the 5th of January. But from my own worldview, I think Uganda should stick to the rule of law, the constitution. If we could just respect and obey all what is jotted down in our constitutions, like Article 22, Section 28, Article 274, these are very comprehensive. As my colleagues have said, Uganda has a history that all the past governments were forcefully removed from the stage. And I can see if this kind of pattern continues, then the Ugandan population will have no option, because once you're pushed on the wall and you have nowhere to run, you have to fight back. That is just nature. And to me, what I learned from this is that actually, when Museveni and his group of, I think, 27 others went to the bush, I don't think they went to the bush because elections were rigged. Okay? Because they want that people believe in this process because of their past history. They went to the bush to fight so that the democratic spaces could be expanded and enjoy rights. And what I can see, the rights of Ugandans are being compromised. So it has completely whitewashed their history. So what I can only say, I would challenge this expo to ensure that let all the government institutions be independent, be impartial, and try to exercise their roles without interferences and favors. The army should not interfere with the electoral processes. The police should not interfere. The EC should be credible and ethical so that the results of elections will be accepted across the divide. And above all, again, I also go further and say that I challenge the status quo to release all the political prisoners as they head to the voting day as a sign of, reconciliation and meaning business, that they have any bad intention, but they want to identify the right leaders for Ugandans. That's it. Yeah. So I would say that let us respect the rule of law, and I appeal to my fellow countrymen and women not to go in any kind of unconstitutional means, because I can see like Sudan, Khartoum is not looking in good shape. If you look at Libya, look at Syria, look at Iraq, the Congo, I would not like my country to downgrade to that level. So let's kind of foster the aspects of inclusivity, dialogue, engagement, and trying to make compromises for the sake of the country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Chen. Francis Kamhanda, conclusively, let's be cognizant of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina, and fellow panelists. In conclusion, I see 2026 as a standoff between the old guards and the persistent oppressed Ugandans. And of course, security and civic space will continue to shrink. But my worry is about the succession questions, that is the late Musevenism. That's where we have the biggest challenge, given that our youth will continue to be unemployed and so on and under pressure. Then the fragile democratic governance that we have. And of course, demeaning our and tinting our regional and international image as a country and engagement. Therefore, I would urge Ugandans remain peaceful, as how General Muntu has said, time shall be our witness that all this shall come to pass. However, in doing that, it is important that post the election, we need serious national reconciliation dialogues for those who are really national, who are patriots and love our country. Then, of course, we have talked about electoral reforms and constitutionalism. I wish how if the parliament could reinstate the term limit and age limit as far as presidency is concerned. And then it is important. Dr. Sarah Biret is in prison and others, Dr. Besige, because of limiting the civic space. We need to protect the civil and digital space, because that is part of the weapon that we have, or how we can reach the masses and try to break the cycle of ignorance that makes Ugandans vulnerable to being bought just a small packet of salt. And the last solution, I would say, a transitional plan and its management, because if that is mismanaged, we would, again, as I always say, if that is mismanaged, we would be smartly addressed going nowhere. Otherwise, I thank the panelists and all other Ugandans, and I wish them some good election, regardless of where it will go, but we shall continue pushing on, not until we have a Uganda that works for everyone. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Francis. And to you, Albert Bakasara.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you, fellow panelists. And this, of course, has been a very informative discussion, and we need these, and we'll continue them. Again, I pray that Dr. Birete goes through this resolutely and in good spirits. And I pray that her family handles this the best they can. And I ask you, the staff at this great organization, to keep the faith. Like I said in the beginning, I don't have much hope that this is the last of your worries. I think some of you, and maybe all of us, will have to go through this, because this is a long nightmare and it's going to continue. But I do echo the sentiments of my two previous speakers. We appeal. The first thing is life. Okay, you live to fight another day. We appeal to Ugandans to be peaceful. Don't burn your country on the behest of a guy who is 81 years old. Time is on your side, not on his, right. On yours. He will not be here tomorrow. Don't burn down your country. Don't burn your property. Don't kill your neighbor on the behest of a dying dictator. Don't do that. Now,
all right. Yes.
Yeah, and Ugandans should stand on the side of the law. There's nothing that stops you from holding a Ugandan flag. If somebody wants to whip you for holding a Ugandan flag, take the whooping. Okay, but these will be things that we'll have to go through. It's a sad experience, but we'll have to go through this as a country. And for us here in the diaspora, yes, we're far away from that chaos, but we do pray that everybody goes through this well. Hopefully there will be some reconciliation and power sharing or negotiation, whatever shape it takes. But something has to happen. There's no way Ugandans are going to come out of this and say, oh, we'll wait for another 5 years. Absolutely not. And I don't think the president is willing to hand over power. So there's a standoff, and the only way it can be resolved is a serious effort at reconciliation, a serious effort at power sharing, a serious effort at even restitution. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much again, and Happy New Year. And I will love to Sarah, of course.
All right. Thank you so much, Albert, for that. Dr. Chisambira, in 1 minute, could you conclude?
I just want to thank everyone for turning up for this show and always sparing time to deliberate for the good of our country. Thank you, dear panelists. I continue to pray for Sarah to go through this and also pray for our protection because we are all potential victims. But I implore all of us to stand and defend what is right because it can stay for us tomorrow when we are not here and Uganda is continuing. Our children or our grandchildren will be able to stand firm if they believe that their foregrandfathers actually spoke the truth for the good of their stay. Otherwise, if we do not stand firm for that and we let a small group jeopardize our thinking and our deliberations, then we are letting the future of ourselves and that of our children and grandchildren get doomed. So we pray for Sarah, and I wish a happy new year for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sambira, Albert Bakasara, Dr. Chen, and of course, Francis Kamhanda. Earlier, we had Nancy elaborating, actually painting a picture of what happened to Dr. Sarah, and we stand with you, and we're praying for you and your family, and of course, the staff at CCG, and everyone concerned about her. We pray that she will be well and healthy. One thing I'm certain of is that nothing is permanent. Everything eventually comes to an end. Well, as we come to the end of the show, Uganda stands at a moment where every action by the state, political actors, and citizens will shape not just the election outcome, but the country's democratic future. The choices made now will echo long after the votes are counted. I want to wish you the very best. We'll catch you next time, and Happy New Year.